Technical foul. Yeah.
Yo guys, what is up? Welcome back to Teed Up. I'm David.
I'm Justin.
As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We're back, man. Justin, we are back.
Finally, it's about time.
Dude, it's about time. We apologize for the whole hiatus, but work and school happened, and it just happened to be like when the NBA season was starting. So, we're back.
Just bad timing.
Yeah, just really bad timing, and just crazy times we're living in. So, bear with us, but we're back right in time for the next season.
A lot of stuff happened.
A lot of stuff is happening already. This off season was, it was rushed. So obviously a lot of big news just thrown at you at once. It's crazy.
So it was.
Yeah. So we're gonna start off with the draft. The draft was a couple nights ago. A lot of big names. This draft, obviously it was a very unpredictable draft. I feel like because you had the whole situation with R.J. Hampton. Cole Anthony was in there. LaMelo Ball. You didn't. It was just
overseas like that.
Coming from overseas. You had a lot of like weird situations. Justin, what are your thoughts on this NBA draft?
It was certainly an interesting draft. I mean, you saw some weird picks. You saw the Bulls take Patrick Williams at 4, and it's just kind of like, I think that was a shocker. And I think throughout the draft, you're going to see there were a lot of steals because there was no March Madness. The season was cut short. It's going to be interesting to look back on later down the road because I think there were some guys that went later on that could have been top 5 picks, top 10 for sure when you look back on it and when you're redrafting later on. So it'll be interesting. I think the top 3 were a lock. We knew what they were going to be coming in. I don't know if we knew the order, but we knew those 3 were going to be the picks. I disagree. I think the Timberwolves should went with LaMelo number 1. I think he's going to be a better player than Anthony Edwards is. I don't know if you saw the pre-draft story, but he said he doesn't love the game of basketball. And he says he can't watch it. He said he enjoys playing it, but he doesn't have like a true passion for it. So that kind of concerned me since we didn't get to see him in his tournament and March Madness. So like going back, maybe he ends up being a bust. I'm not going to call him a bust now, but I'm not a huge fan. James Wiseman was a good pick by the Warriors. I think he's going to fit in well because they needed a big man. When Klay Thompson went down, I may have drafted a guard there, but because Klay Thompson, it was a tough situation because you didn't really know what the injury was at the time, and it's tough looking back on it. But James Wiseman, I think, was the right pick there. I think the Hornets had an excellent draft. They took LaMelo at 3, and then in the second round they took Vernon Carey. I think he's going to be a decent big man. Overall, I think the second round is going to have a lot of sleepers in it, and you'll see some guys, Tyrell Terry. I saw our Sixers took Isaiah Joe with the 49th pick. They were saying I really like him, good shooter. They were saying they were either going to take him at 30 or 21, and they ended up getting him at 49. So there was some insane value late in the draft. Twitter was going crazy about some of these guys were getting picked 50 when they said projecting them to go top 30. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll see how it goes. But, yeah, I think if I had to pick a winner of the draft, I would say it's the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, absolutely. Me personally, I was never really sold on LaMelo Ball like a lot of people are. Like, I just don't know how he's going to be with his, his whole situation with overseas. And I wasn't even that big a fan of him even back in Chino Hills, to be honest with you. So I'll be curious to see. Like I said, I hope he proves me wrong. But, yeah, I think a sleeper in the second round, though, is Kenyan Martin Jr. I think he's a stud. I think he's going to be a good player.
That's an interesting take. I think I like his game. I think he's going to be a solid player, but he's certainly not. If he is a stud, he won't be the only one because there's going to be a lot of guys there that were just excellent value picks in the second round. I think you're going to have more stars out of the second round in this draft than any other draft before.
I think this draft is going to be like kind of a low key, kind of like memorable draft. Kind of like back in 2013. If you remember, there weren't like that many like we didn't know Giannis was going to be who he is. We didn't know CJ McCollum was going to be CJ McCollum.
Yeah,
things like that. So yeah, it was just a good draft. I think there were a lot of winners. Like I think Golden State, unfortunately that whole situation with Klay Thompson kind of ruined everything, and they probably should have drafted a shooting guard. But James Wiseman is still a solid center. They're kind of weak at the 5, so it's still a good pick for them.
I agree.
So let us know what you guys think about this whole draft. How'd your team draft? How did yours? Sixers did well. I know our team did well.
Very well.
We
Daryl
did a
Morey
good
did a
job.
great job.
Absolutely, he's doing a fantastic job as the as the advisor. I think he's great. We'll get into that later, but I want to get into all these free agencies. Justin, it was a crazy thing. Like I said, just all these different trades coming at you at once. It was crazy. What are your thoughts on this free agency? There was a lot of big moves, a lot of huge moves.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I don't think nothing was league altering. Like, I don't think there was no super team formed or anything. Like some people were suggesting Harden to the Nets. Nothing like that happened that was overly dramatic. But there were a lot of solid moves, a lot of good trades, a lot of good pickups in free agency. I mean, the Cp3 trade was good. The latest one with Russell Westbrook and John Wall was kind of a head scratcher at first, I think, for almost everybody. But I think both teams made out well in the deal. And really, I think free agency, it was a good free agency. I don't think, like I said, no superstar switch teams in free agency. There wasn't a LeBron choosing to go to Miami this free agency, but that didn't, like, AD went back to the Lakers. We already knew that was coming. Brandon Ingram back to the Pelicans. I think he got paid a little too much money there, but I mean,
Way too
again,
much.
decent. I mean, 158. He's a solid player, but 158. That's a lot of money. And another one was the Fred VanVleet. I thought he kind of got underpaid. He only got 85 million. I'm a big Fred VanVleet guy, and I think he's a solid player. And 85 million. I thought he was going to get closer to 100 million. What about you?
I don't know. I mean, I know the Raptors are still going to pay him, eventually. Like I think,
Yeah.
beggars can't be choosers. At the end of the day, he's, no disrespect, but he's Freddie VanVleet. He's not like Klay Thompson. He's not James Harden. He's Freddie VanVleet. He gets
No,
the
he's a good
job
player.
done.
I just thought the market there would be bigger for him, and I guess it wasn't because he only got 85 million. They were saying when he was balling for a while there, he may get like closer to a max deal, and clearly that didn't happen. So that was interesting. Bogdanovic went to the Hawks. He didn't end up in Milwaukee. I know there was the talks about that. He reached the 4-year deal, 72 million with the Hawks. Christian Wood to the Rockets. Gallinari to the Hawks. Jeremy Grant, former Sixer, went to the Pistons from the Nuggets, and probably the most controversial was Montrezl Harrell going to the Lakers. Nobody really saw that one coming.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, what was your big move that you really liked this offseason?
Obviously, like you said, I like that. I really like that Trez. I know you guys have a little bit of history, but that's neither here nor there. That's not. It's not a. It's a discussion for another day. Can't really get into that. But if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. But yeah, I mean, it was it was a predictable free agency. You knew Freddie VanVleet was going to get paid. Did anybody really think Anthony Davis was going to not be in the purple and gold next season?
Only Lakers haters.
I don't think so. Maybe, yeah, exactly. Maybe Lakers haters, maybe Celtics fans. But yeah, I thought the Gordon Hayward signing was stupid. I know the Hornets are desperate, but I didn't know that they were that desperate.
Yeah, 120 million for him just seems like a
$120
lot.
million. I
4
wouldn't give
years,
him.
aging player.
I wouldn't give him more than like $60 million.
I'd go 4 years, 80 million, 20 million a year tops. I wouldn't go nowhere near 120. That's a lot of money in my opinion.
No, I probably even wouldn't sign him for 4 years. I'd probably sign him for like a year because his health is just unpredictable. And you obviously saw a decline. You see a decline in his game. Not that that's his fault, but it's just his health. But yeah, I'm not really. I don't have that much trust in Gordon Hayward as the Charlotte Hornets.
It's fair.
But let us know what you guys think about this whole free agency thing. This is crazy. I think one of the biggest moves was that CP3 trade and how great that was for the Phoenix Suns.
So what do you think about this one? Do you think they are like a true contender in the Western Conference now? Because the West is very loaded. Do you think they can truly compete for a top seed, or do you think they're going to be like a 6 through 8,
I think they could get a 3 seed.
a 3 seed?
I know that's a hot take, but I'm really sold on the Suns. You know, you have a great mentor in Chris Paul. He's going to be great
Mhm.
mentoring Devin Booker.
Mhm.
You got DeAndre Ayton in the post. This team's set up. You know, they're kind of like the Sixers of the West, if that makes sense.
Interesting take. I don't hate the trade. I like CP3. You saw what he did with the Thunder last season. He did a great job with them. But I'm not sold on that team. Still a lot of young guys around him. CP3 is aging. Can he stay healthy? That was his biggest. He would have won a ring in Houston, but injuries just destroyed him there. He didn't have the talent with him at OKC. I think his biggest thing is, can he stay healthy this season? Because if he can stay healthy, I think they have the potential to be there. I don't think they will be. I think they're going to finish probably around the 6th seed. That's kind of my spot for him in the West. And I think part of it is because the West is so loaded. You're going to have the Lakers, the Nuggets. You're going to have the Clippers back up there. The Mavericks are going to be back. Full season of Zion. The Pelicans did a lot. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. I think they're going to fall somewhere around 6, but yeah, I think 3 is a little too high, though.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing about this team. They're up in the air, and like when I look at teams such as last year's Miami Heat team, they were up in the air. I thought they were going to be like a 7th seed and be a first round exit, and they ended up taking the Lakers to 6 games. I think the same thing's going to happen with this Suns team. I think I'm very confident in them. I'm going to be watching a lot of Phoenix Suns games, which is something I wouldn't have said 3 years ago.
No, and that's fair. I think they certainly have the potential to do it. They are just a young team. They got CP3. I love their coach, Monty Williams. He's a great guy, great basketball mind. I think they can do it. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be there a year. I think it's too loaded in the West. I see them falling around 6.
Yeah, but I mean that all depends. How Denver does. Denver went on a great streak one year, but next year, but the year before that they were, they fell short. The Clippers choked.
Yeah,
That
it's
that
going to
did.
be interesting to see. But I mean, now I just don't. I'm gonna be a little cautious on them. They're not my big sleeper team. I got another team in the West. I think the Trailblazers are gonna be that team this year. You saw what they did in the bubble, and uh, under the radar trade that has not been talked about is the addition of Robert Covington. They traded for Robert Covington, and now they finally have the guy that can play defense on another team's star player. They can go put him against LeBron James. Not that he's stopping LeBron James, but he's certainly better than Carmelo Anthony's going to do. And I think when you put him on the star player, it's going to slow them down a little bit because the Blazers' offense was insane last year. In the bubble, it was one of the best offenses in the league. The problem was they had the worst defense. You add Robert Covington to that mix, you're going to keep Melo. You get Rodney Hood back from his injury. So now you're going to have a lineup of, say,
Ennis
Dame,
Kanter as well.
CJ. They'll have Dame, CJ. Let's say they go Robert Covington, Melo, and Nurk. That's their starting 5. You're going to have Gary Trent Jr., who was just lights out in the bubble off the bench. He's going to be there off the bench. You'll add Rodney Hood, who can play some defense and shoot 3. You're going to have Zach Collins as your 4 off the bench. And then you get, what's the center you just named? I'm blanking on the name.
Ennis Kanter.
Yeah, Cantor. And you get the only thing they're missing is kind of a backup point guard. I'll be interested to see if they let CJ kind of take up that role. Maybe CJ will be the backup point guard when Dame's not in. But yeah, I think the Trailblazers are going to be the sleeper team over the Suns in the West.
I don't know if they're going to be over Phoenix, but you already know how I feel about Portland. I'm a huge Portland guy. I love Dame.
Mm-hmm.
I love CJ. I think they're one of the best backcourts in the league.
I think they may be the best backcourt now. I think the 2 teams we're talking about have the 2 best backcourts. I think
Yeah,
CP3 and Booker and Dame and CJ are arguably the 2 best backcourts in the NBA. I don't even think that's a discussion anymore. I think
I
that's
mean,
like a fact.
Yeah, I mean, when healthy, I'm choosing Steph and Clay all day, but
Oh,
obviously
oh yeah,
that's
certainly.
not. Yeah, but right now, probably I'd say Dame and CJ. I can't really think of anybody else.
I guess you can make a case for Russ and Beal just based off talent. But I don't know if the fit's going to be. We'll talk about that trade in a little bit. But I mean,
Hmm.
I really like the Portland Trailblazers this year. I think this is going to be their year. I think they're going to finish ahead of the Suns in the Western Conference this year. I think it's going to be close. I think if I had to go through, I think they're going to finish around 4, and the Suns finish around 8. I mean, sorry,
Mm.
6.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm probably gonna go Lakers, Clippers, Phoenix, Portland, Denver, and so on.
I'd probably go. I'm gonna be with you on the top two. I'm gonna go Lakers 1. I think 2 will probably have to be two will have to be the Clippers. Yeah, I think 3 is gonna be Dallas. I think 4 is Portland. I'm gonna go 5 Denver. 6 I'd probably go Phoenix, and then from there it's gonna be a little battle. You'll get the Warriors. You'll get a couple good teams in there. It'll be interesting to see because I think the biggest thing that we've seen this offseason is each conference is the East certainly got stronger and deeper, but the West is also very deep. So it's going to be, I think you kind of know who the top team in each conference is. I think it's going to be the Bucks. I think it's going to be the Lakers. But after that, I think there's going to be some really good competition for who finishes where.
Absolutely.
What do you think
Yeah.
of the John Wall, Russell Westbrook deal? I think we should break that down.
Yeah, that's crazy. You had the CP3 trade out west, but now you come back to the east, and there's another crazy trade with Russ and John Wall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the Rockets won the trade overall.
Hmm.
In my opinion, that's just because I'm not a Russ guy. I don't think this is crazy because I'm honestly questioning the rest of Russell Westbrook's career. Like, what can he do? I like my whole prediction, like for most of Russell Westbrook's prime, is that the only way he's going to win a championship if he's like 30, 40 years old and is a backup point guard on a contender. So,
Hmm.
adding him to the Wizards with another ball dominant player in Bradley Beal, I don't think it's going to work. I didn't think Russ and Harden were going to work, and I was right. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously it didn't work out in Oklahoma City. So I think the same thing is just going to keep repeating itself. It's going to be, history is going to repeat itself. And I think this is kind of it for Russell Westbrook.
Interesting. So I saw it and I was kind of just left me scratching my head. I wasn't really sure what to think at first. At first, I thought the Rockets won this trade easily just because whoever plays with James, there's been this narrative, right? James Harden, that's where players go to die. They always play worse there. Russell Westbrook actually improved his numbers last season when he went to play with James Harden. And I think John Wall's going to do the same. I think John Wall's going to be actually a really good player next to him. And that was my original thought. I thought it was going to be a good signing, good trade for the Rockets. But the more I look at it, they're in the Western Conference. I just don't know if that team can do much. I don't know if Harden's going to be there. So I think the winner of that trade has to be the Wizards because they're getting a guy that will get them to the postseason now. Because Russ has always been a postseason player. He'll be good enough to get them 7, 8, maybe even 6 in the West. You still have Bradley Beal there. Bradley Beal is a great shooting guard. And the rest of that team is still a good team. You got the Rui Hachimura, I can't pronounce his name, him from last year. He's very good. You get Denny, their first round pick. He's really good too. Thomas Bryant's a young up and coming center. They had a good team. I think they're going to be a solid team. I think I really just like that move for them because they didn't really have a direction. They were kind of stuck in the middle. They didn't really know what they're doing. I don't think John Wall really fit next to Bradley Beal. There were some issues there. I just think the Wizards overall won that deal. I think they only had to give up a first, and I think Russ is a guaranteed thing. Like Wall could end up being better than Russ, but you know what you're getting out of Russ. You're going to get a guy that's going to put up 28 and 9 and you're certain with that. You don't really know what you're getting from John Wall because he's coming off these Achilles injuries. I think the potential for John Wall is incredible, and I think his fit next to Harden is going to be good because he doesn't have to do too much. All they're going to ask him to do is be the ball handler when Harden comes out, and he's just got to kind of keep the team afloat. And that's why the Rockets failed. The Rockets failed because Russell Westbrook, when he was on the floor by himself, he was a minus player in his plus minus. It was not good. They were like -4 with him on the court by himself. But when Harden was out there by himself, they were like a plus 11. And when the two of them out there together, they were like +1. So there was a big difference there. I think if he can just fit and he doesn't have to play when Harden's really playing, and just to be able to take the load off of Harden's back, and they'll be a decent team. Now, one of the big things for the Rockets was the addition of Christian Wood. I don't know if you saw that sign and trade they made there. I think that's a big pickup there because I think he's a young up-and-coming player, and all the attention is going to be on Wall and Harden. I think it's going to leave a lot of opportunity for Wood to shine. What do you think?
Yeah, I think obviously Christian Wood is going to absolutely prosper being with Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm just not sold on Washington. Like I think they're going to be a first round exit. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be fighting with Bradley Beal because I don't know. Like you just go anywhere. Russ can go anywhere, and there's always going to be a fight. You saw it with KD. You saw it with Harden. You know, there's just he's just always going to have conflict
Mm-hmm.
with
And
a
I think that
player.
was part of why you gave that kind of hot take you did, because he clearly didn't necessarily care about playing for a winner. He was on a winner in Houston. They were a very good team, but they just, for whatever reason, didn't click. And it seems like he cares more about his stats than actually winning basketball games. And because of that, I'm not sure if they can really be a winner, like a true contender. Washington can be a good team. I think they can be a playoff team, but they are not anywhere near a contender. And because of that, I'm just not sold on them. And I think you're right. I think Russ is going to be a guy that's going to care more about his statistics rather than winning a championship. I think he does win a championship because I think eventually he'll say, when he's 36 years old, he'll be like, okay, I want to get a ring, and he'll join up with somebody down the road and accept the fact that he needs it. Kind of like Melo has kind of started to accept the fact that he
Mm.
needs to play and take a role back. I think eventually Russ will do that. So I don't think he goes ringless, but I do think it's going to be a while. I don't think he gets his first ring in Washington.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing I would disagree with you about is that your whole Houston take, because I still think Houston needs a true center.
Well, they did sign DeMarcus Cousins. I'm not sure what that will bring. I'm not sure what DeMarcus Cousins we will get. But before he got injured again in Golden State, he did put up 14 and 9. So it's not like he wasn't necessarily being a superstar. But if you're getting 14, put it this way. In 2017, I believe it was, that Rockets team. It was CP3, James Harden, and Clint Capella. I'd say if you're getting 14 and 9 out of DeMarcus Cousins, you have Christian Wood out there, and then you have John Wall giving you maybe 15, 8, and 4, and James Harden's getting you 38 and 5. I think that team's going to be a contender. I don't think they're going to go far, but I think they're certainly got to be in the mix in the West. But the West is so loaded, it's going to be tough, and there's so many injuries. John Wall's injury history, you get Boogie's injury history, and who knows if they even keep Harden. But if they were to keep that team, I'd see them through 6 in the position they'd be in, probably 6 through 8 in the Western Conference. Again, they'd be a bottom seed. That's what I said. This trade it left me scratching my head because I'm like, neither team put themselves really any further than I thought they would be. I think the Wizards will end up going further because of this trade. I think the Wizards went from like the 9th best team in the East to probably like the 7th best team. Meanwhile, the Rockets went from being the 8th best, and they're probably still the 8th best. I don't really think that's really changing anything. Obviously, if they trade James Harden, that will be an interesting thing. But do you think James Harden and Bradley Beal should stay, or do you think they should go somewhere else now that Wall's there? And like, should Harden just say, okay, Wall and Boogie and Wood, you three go off and do your thing, I'm going somewhere else? And should Bradley Beal be like, okay, I'll let Russ just stay here and get his 20, 10, and 10 and move on and go somewhere else because both those guys could fit in with the Nets if the Nets start to struggle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would probably give it to the deadline. If I were Harden or Beal, I'd probably give it to the deadline just to see how the team goes, just to see if there's any injuries, which, obviously, you have DeMarcus Cousins out there, you have John Wall out there. Both are very injury-prone players. But also both John Wall used to be an all-star. DeMarcus Cousins used to be the best center in the league.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think I would probably wait till the deadline, make sure no detrimental injuries happen, make sure everyone's, playing how they should be playing. If John Wall is playing like John Wall and he's helping you, obviously I wouldn't stay. I wouldn't go to Brooklyn or I wouldn't go to Philly. I would stay in Houston. And I would say the same with Bradley Beal. If Russell Westbrook gets his act together and if Russell Westbrook stops being a stat pattern and a ball hog, then why not stay in DC?
I don't agree. I don't disagree with that. I don't know. There's a lot of risk involved with that. I mean, here's the thing. Houston, I don't believe, has their own first-round pick this year. So if they were to tank, like trading James Harden away right now truly gets you nothing. And if you just say, I'm going to tank, that doesn't get you anywhere because you can't tank with your own pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for them, their best situation is to run it back for a year and see what they can do. And if it's an absolute failure at the trade deadline, then you say, okay, look, now we'll sell players and we can sell maybe John Wall. John Wall is having a decent season, or you can sell James Harden, get the most you can for him before he enters free agency the following year. Well, he has one more year. But as for Bradley Beal, I think what's going to happen is I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to have a little struggle there. And I think they're going to end up calling Washington and trying to get Beal because I think Beal is people keep saying James Harden to the Nets, James Harden to the Nets. I don't think so. I think Bradley Beal would be the better fit for the Brooklyn Nets. And I think that's where he ends up. I think if things do go south in Washington, Bradley Beal will request a trade and he will be on his way to Brooklyn. That's my prediction there.
And I would probably agree with that. I think Bradley Beal is a much better fit. I think he will work a lot better with KD and Kyrie Irving because I think Bradley Beal would understand his role more than James Harden would. I think his ego would be a lot.
I don't think that's necessarily the issue. I think the issue is more so on Kyrie in that situation. I think Kyrie wants to be more. Kyrie's just such a ball dominant guy, and Bradley Beal is better off the ball than James Harden is. That's why I think it would fit better. I don't necessarily think because I think the real situation there would be to get rid of Kyrie and put James Harden and Bradley Beal together. I think that would be the best team you could form there. But obviously, that's not really a way that happens. But I mean, I just don't think James Harden and Kyrie Irving fit together on a basketball court.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I wouldn't want to see that. I really wouldn't. I think that would be just horrible, in my opinion.
I think that's about most of the trades. I don't think did we miss anything there? Because I think we covered most of the trades.
Most of the important ones. I mean,
Gordon Hayward. There were. Oh, let's talk about the trade, Big Sixers trade they made. Two of them actually. You shipped off Al Horford finally for
Jesus.
Yeah, you had to give up a first-round pick, and you got to get Danny Green back, but you get rid of Al Horford's contract.
That pick is a 20. That's a 2025 pick. Okay, that kid's probably in what, like 8th grade.
Mm-hmm. And if the Sixers are good by then, who cares? The pick's going to be 28th in the draft anyway.
We're still going to be
in
contenders.
my opinion, it was a great move. And one thing we haven't talked about was the acquisition of Daryl Morey. We kind of talked about it earlier. That I think that was a big move because, in my opinion, as you know, I'm a big James Harden guy. So I've been following a lot of Houston and what they've done, and I've been following Daryl Morey a lot, and I really like his attitude. I like the way he builds his teams. I think they're mostly successful. I'm happy they got him, and I think here's the thing: Elton Brand is a great guy. He's good with relationships. He's good with communicating with the players because he was a former player. He understands them well. he just doesn't understand how to be a general manager yet. He doesn't really have any experience. I think bringing Daryl Morey in was really good for them, and I think it allows them to kind of grow Elton Brand as a general manager, make him understanding more of what that takes and how you do more of the business side, the trades and stuff like that. Because the Sixers were getting ripped off in those trades Elton Brand was making. I mean, Tobias deal, they gave up way too much for Tobias. I don't really think they gave up too much in either of these deals they made. They were able to get rid of the Horford contract, which was a mistake. Get Danny Green. Now, Danny Green is not 2015 Danny Green anymore. He is a little washed up at least. He's not going to be a guy that shoots 45% from three and plays excellent defense. But he's still a great contributor, and I think he can be a solid role player for this team. And he's going to get a lot more open shots than he would anywhere else because all the attention is going to be on Ben and Joel. I think him out there spacing the floor, teams are going to be focused on collapsing in the paint, and it's going to leave them open shots. And I think the same thing is going to happen with their other deal. They acquired Seth Curry, the other Curry brother, and I think that was a great pickup as well. They had to get rid of Josh Richardson, who I think is probably a better all-around player. I think that's fair to say. Josh Richardson is a better all-around player than Seth Curry is. But Seth Curry fits this team 100 times better than Jay Rich did because Jay Rich could not consistently catch and shoot a three-pointer. And a little fun fact about Seth Curry is he is the best three-point shooter off of dribble handoffs. And I don't remember, you obviously remember, I don't know if everybody else does, but J.J. Redick ran a lot of dribble handoffs with Joel Embiid back in the day, and it was a very successful play. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of that. And I think overall, just Seth Curry on this team is really a perfect fit. I think it's going to be an excellent fit. And when you go and you add shooters like that, you add Isaiah Joe in the second round, who reminds me a lot of Landry Shamet, who they drafted a couple years ago in the first round there. So I think the potential is there. I'm not sure if they're going to be – I'm not sure if they're finals contenders yet. I'm not ready to say that. But in my opinion, they had one of the best off seasons out of everybody, and I think Daryl Morey is the reason for that.
I 100% agree. I think Daryl Morey is doing an amazing job, and the reason for that is he's doing everything the fans have been saying to do, or he's doing everything the fans want to happen. Everyone wanted to get rid of Al Horford. It happened. Everyone wanted to get more shooters. You acquired Danny Green and Seth Curry, who's one of the best shooters in the league. So he's just listening to us. I don't know if he's actually listening to us or it's just a coincidence and he's making the right moves and the moves that we want him to
I think
make.
it was just common sense. I think
right.
Yes, the fans were able to see it, and he's a basketball mind, so he was able to see it too. It wasn't. It was obvious what the Sixers were lacking shooting, and he's just a smart man, and he was able to. He had common sense and was able to see it. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been preaching that Al Horford should be traded since February.
Maybe it was a master plan by Elton Brand. I don't know, but maybe the whole goal was we'll sign him from Boston. That way he's out of Boston, and then we'll ship him out to the West, and now Embiid never has to play him again. Maybe it was something like that. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of that's positive about the Al Horford signing. He's not in Boston anymore, and now Joel Embiid only has to play him once a year, basically. So I think it was a good thing at the end of the day, but it really hurt this team that we got him. And I think getting rid of him was the right move.
And I think the only thing that has to be done next is maybe try to shop for and see what you can get for Tobias to get rid of that contract. Not that he's a decent player. I don't think he's worth $150 million. I don't think he's worth a max contract.
I don't think so either. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he does this year under different coaching. I think I was a pretty strong advocate for this, but I don't think Brett Brown was the real issue for that team. I don't think he was helping the team out. I don't think he was making them better, but I don't think he was necessarily making them worse, and his time was probably up here. But I don't think he was necessarily the real issue. I think the problem was Tobias was a mid-range jump shooter. He's a guy that likes to shoot he likes to catch the ball 3-point line, take a dribble in, and pull up and hit that mid-range jump shot. And now last season, Jay Rich was kind of taking that role. The floor spacing wasn't right there, and he wasn't really able to find that area because he was kind of shooting deeper threes because that was kind of the only shot that was open for him, and it wasn't his shot. I think now if you can get him closer to LA Clippers, Tobias Harris, who was a half-decent basketball player, at least he was putting up like 21, 7, and 4. So
Shot
he
like
wasn't a
51
terrible
from
guy
3
there.
that year.
Yeah, so he was having a successful season. I think the issue was spacing, and I think there'll be much better spacing on the court now, and I think Embiid's numbers will improve. I think Ben Simmons' numbers will improve. Well, I think that kind of depends on if he starts taking jump shots or not, but that's a different story for a different day. I just think there'll be more spacing for him, so even if he doesn't take the jump shots, he should be scoring a little bit better. And you add Tobias, if Danny Green and Seth Curry are out there at the three-point line, it will leave Tobias space to hit the mid-range jumper. I think that's where his game really excels, so I'll be interesting to see that. And another fun fact is Ben Simmons is the best passer to three-point shots in the league, and he didn't even play with a single three-point shooter last year. Like, he played with Jay Rich, Tobias Harris, and I don't even know who else was out there sometimes. They were just bums, like Matisse Thybulle. Great player, great defender, but he can't shoot to save his life. Those were the guys that were playing out there next to him, and he still had the most assists to three-point shots. So like now you're actually giving him successful three-point shooters on the court. These guys are going to be open, and if they can hit their shots, this team could be dangerous, and I think they could go far. I think they could go. They'll at least be a second-round team. I think they go further than where they went last year. I think they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Will they win that game, that series? It will be to be determined, but I think they're going to be I think they're going to be a top 3 team in the East this year. A little hot take and maybe a little biased, but I think Miami takes a step back. Boston's taking a step back with Kemba. I think the Bucks are still going to be good. They added Drew Holiday. We'll talk about the Bucks in a little bit, but I think the Nets are going to have some early season struggles just because they haven't played together. I think the Sixers are going to get a top 3 seed in the East. I think that's kind of it's a little hot take, maybe a little biased, but I think they will lock up a top 3 seed in the West, in the East, assuming there's no like COVID situation or some altering injury to Embiid or Ben or something like that. I think they're a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Unbiasedly, I believe that the Sixers are ready, and obviously, we totally forgot adding the addition of Doc Rivers. Now I know you're a big Brett Brown guy, or you were at least, because he's not here. Me personally, I hated the way he coached, but you got to admit, adding Doc Rivers, that's a much better replacement than Brett Brown.
I don't know necessarily because he's had some issues recently with that Clippers team. I don't know if that's on him or who it was on, but I mean, just based on experience, he's been a head coach for a championship-winning team before. You can't say Brett Brown has ever done that before. So right there, you're already in my opinion, a better coach. I agree with that. I don't think Brett Brown was hurting the team. I think Doc Rivers does come in and help the team. It's going to be, can he hold Ben and Jaw accountable, really?
Mm-hmm. I think a big problem that Brett Brown had was he couldn't pick a true leader, who was kind of in charge. You saw Jimmy Butler talk about that on JJ Redick's podcast, and he was just kind of saying, I don't know who was in charge. I don't know who was really controlling everything. So I hope Doc Rivers kind of puts that into somebody's head, saying, hey, you're the number one guy, whether that be Embiid, whether that be Simmons, who knows. But I think he'll lead this team in a better direction than Brett Brown will.
And I don't even necessarily know if it needs to be coaching. I think the atmosphere around the team is going to be better because they're adding these veterans who are winners. You're getting Danny Green, who has won back-to-back championships. You're getting Dwight Howard, who's been around the league. He's been in bad situations before, like super teams like that Lakers team with Nash, Kobe, and him. He knows what bad situations are like, and he knows what good situations are like with his last Lakers stint there. He's a veteran guy who knows what it takes to win in this league. So I think adding guys like that can help the Sixers and can help Joel. Really, I think Dwight Howard really helps Joel Embiid grow. He can kind of play.
Absolutely.
He can be that Al Horford, one of the big things was like, oh, they're gonna say Al Horford's gonna mentor Joel Embiid. I think Dwight Howard's a better guy for that because he's not going to be stealing minutes. Like they were trying to play Al Horford and Embiid together. No, they're not playing together. Al Horford's not a four. He's a backup. He'd be your backup center. So I think now Dwight is going to be the backup center for them, and he's a veteran, experienced, and he can kind of mentor Embiid better than Horford can. So I think he kind of takes that role almost. And I think Danny Green's just a shooter, floor spacer who is a proven winner with the Spurs, three-time championship winner, Spurs, Raptors, Lakers. Last 2 seasons, he's won championships. Hopefully that streak continues.
Yeah. Maybe it's just whoever has Danny Green wins the chip.
That's the trend recently, at least.
I hope that's keep that trend going, Danny Green.
Yes.
Trying to get him on the show, by the way, that's in the works. We'll let you know how that goes. But yeah, so let us know what you guys think about the Sixers. We might be a little biased. I really don't think we're biased. I just think that the Sixers look good. They look good. Like that's what I can tell you.
And that's the thing. Is it real this time? Because this isn't the first time we've said this. The Sixers got Jimmy Butler, and I know about you, but I was thinking the Sixers were the best team in the league then, and they were arguably were one of the best teams then. And I think last year everyone had really high expectations for the Sixers once again, and they failed. But something about this team that it's just different this year, and I think we're going to see that. I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we are being biased, but I think it's pretty obvious that this team is different and they have fixed their flaws. And I think the only question mark left is if you're in a close game down the stretch, who takes the shot? That's the only question I have left, because you don't really see teams go to the big guys, so I don't think it's necessarily Embiid down the stretch. Ben doesn't take the jump shot, so he's going to be driving with it.
Toby's a brick machine.
I don't think you can trust Toby with it.
No offense, but let's call it what it is.
Maybe you drive with Ben and try and kick out the Danny Green, although he missed the shot with the Lakers there in the finals we saw, so he didn't hit that shot. Although he's hit clutch shots before. Maybe it's Seth. I don't know, but I think when you look at the team, that's the one question mark you have left. Who takes that game-winning shot? That's my only question left with this team, because I think they've fixed almost every other hole in this roster. Maybe it's Shake Milton. Maybe he steps up and takes it. I don't know who it is, but I'll be curious to find out. That's my one question going in for the Sixers.
Because they made a lot of changes. Like I mean, they really like turned this team around.
I saw an Instagram post, and it was like Devin Booker has played with 80 teammates in his career or something through like his first 5 seasons. I'm like, dude, do you know what Joel Embiid has been through? Like Joel Embiid, that's like 2 seasons for Joel Embiid. That's like absolutely nothing. They have a new team around Joel every other season. So again, it will be a chemistry issue. I think this team is different. It's not going to be anything like last year's team. It's going to be totally different. And I think they're going to be one of the most exciting teams to watch, because Ben will get them in the fast break, and they'll have shooters. They can actually do something in the half court now. And I didn't necessarily like their pick at first. I kind of hated on Tyrese Maxey. I don't know what you thought about him. I kind of was like, why'd we take him just based on the fact that we had Josh Richardson, and I felt they kind of were close to the same player just because his jump shot isn't there yet, and Jay Rich didn't have the most consistent jump shot. They could both kind of handle the ball, great passers and excellent defenders. But now that we got Jay Rich, I think he's going to be a crucial guy for the bench. And if Matisse Thybulle develops a jump shot, I think this team could be scary.
I would agree. But let us know what you guys think about this Sixers team. Like I said, they look good. Go Sixers.
Trust the process.
Absolutely. Even though it's kind of over, but see what happens.
It's not over. Sam Hinkie's mentor is now in charge. It came full circle.
That is true. Thank you, Sam. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap up I guess I don't want to call it the first episode, because it's not the first episode, but it's,
first episode of season 2.
Season 2, I guess. Yeah. So, but I'm so happy to be back. Seriously, doing this. We appreciate all the support you guys are giving us. Appreciate your patience. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Definitely going to be uploading a lot more. Going to be dropping a ton of more episodes, especially because the season starts in 2 weeks. So we're very excited. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one.